This podcast contains paid advertisements, but more on that later. Welcome to the O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast, where I discuss how you can grow your business by the bootstraps. This applies to all entrepreneurs, from the person just starting up to the one that is already well established. My goal is to help you grow. I am your host, Isaiah O'Connor. Okay, today you guys are going to be sponsoring this podcast. With my new subscription service, I do have set up a little bit of a paywall behind my buymeacoffee.com/bootstrap. You can go there, you can sign up $5 a month or $50 a year. And I've got a bunch of various goodies on there. And including the first 10 people to sign up will get a free 2-hour consultation with myself. And I would love to get to know you and talk to you. If you sign up and you want some more goodies, let me know what you would like, and I'll see if I can make it happen. But please just go ahead and go check it out at buymeacoffee.com/bootstrap. And if you enjoy this and you just want to buy me a coffee, throw $5 towards maybe a new microphone or something cool like that, you can do that as well. Anyway, let's jump into this. So today I'm going to be talking about innovation. And the difference between real innovation and maybe not so real innovation, at least in the broad scale. And I'm going to be talking about two products, both of which I have owned and enjoyed and championed at some point in time, and now don't look at either. And I look at both of them a little different eyes these days. And they are actually three products, but we'll get there. The three products are the Motorola Razr, the phone, the version 3, the first one that hit the US market a long time ago now. 12, 13, 14 years ago now? A long time ago now. And, of course, the iPhone, which just completely changed the way we look at mobile devices. And then, maybe as a little comparison, I'll do the one that landed smack in between those two, and that was the Motorola Rocker, which, again, we owned. So, my wife actually owned the Rocker. So, let's talk about it. The Motorola Razr came first. I remember I won one in a sales contest, and it was, at the time, the coolest phone out there. It wasn't chunky, it was so thin, it was so nice, it had all the nice features, it had Bluetooth, it had the fastest network available, fastest mobile data available. I mean, it was an amazing little device. Really cool, the thin little buttons made you feel like a Star Trek communicator. Really nice screen, very clear. I mean, it was amazing. It was a thing to have. And it sold a ton of phones. Motorola sold a ton of phones there. And people talked about how innovative the design was and how amazing it was, etc., etc., etc. Now, granted, it was a nice phone. My little sister tripped out big time. She was so excited that I had a Razr and she got to play with it, and she was so happy. She was, 13, 14 at the time, so it was a big deal to get the Motorola Razr. So years later, Motorola Razr kind of got cheap and was cool and still a nice phone. But a few years later, you can really say that the Motorola Razr actually changed the mobile phone industry very much. Sure, the biggest thing it did was people started thinking about the way it looked, the actual design and feel, as well as thinning down the designs, make it easier, lighter weight, etc. There were some minor changes. However, I read one article, and I couldn't find it. I tried to find it again, but couldn't find it. I read an article in Tech Magazine detailing that while the Motorola Razr was cool, and while the design had some innovation about it, it really was not truly an innovative design. I know that might sound like sacrilege for anyone who grew up in the time when the Motorola Razr was the coolest thing ever. Now let me explain. The Motorola Razr had a very nice design, and the innovation was they thought about making it look nice and fit in your pocket better and not just work well. And it did work well as well, so that was a plus. But there was not really a deep, big design innovation. Now, this article that I had read went in to explain why. Sure, the keypad was new and cool. It was flat, and it was like a single piece of like metal that was carved out, so you could press the button. It was really cool, very cool. But it was still buttons on a phone. It was a thin design, but phones were already going towards skinnier, better fitting designs anyway. Functionality, phones were heading that way anyway. So outside of a couple of these cool little tricks, it was still a phone with buttons and a screen that you could dial and make a phone call on. It was not a big leap in technology or a huge innovation. Now, as a small business, you're probably not going to be able to make a industry-shaking, ground-shaking innovation that changes everything. That's fine. It's really hard in the balloon business to do that. A lot of ideas I thought of, I'm like, hey, this is a great idea. I haven't seen this. And as soon as I do that, I look up online and like 4 other people have already been doing it and teaching how to do it already. So you don't always have to innovate and change things completely around to be successful. That's not my point here. Because the Motorola Razr, of course, was massively successful. It was really, really cool because it stood out. And that's very important. The most important thing you need to do is stand out from your competition. You need to be different so people notice you and come to you and use your products and services. So don't get me wrong, that is very important to stand out. Even if you're not making a massive innovation, do something that makes you stand out, and that's cool. And that's what Motorola did well. It stood out. But in the long run, Motorola didn't really innovate anything. And they have not since, at least that I've seen, really recaptured anything like that. Where they tried with the new folding razor with the screen, the like a clamshell smartphone, which has mixed reviews. But yeah, it's different, but still, it's not a massive innovation. People are not running out to copy this type of thing, and they're struggling. And they haven't done a really good job since then. And I used to be a massive Motorola fan, but the last few phones of theirs I've used and had, I've sadly been very disappointed because they're just following along to everyone else. They're making the cheaper products that aren't that great. They're just the least expensive smartphones you can buy now, and they haven't really done much to succeed. Now, I'm going to probably do a deep dive and try to see where they kind of went off the trail there and lost me as a loyal customer, for that matter. But somewhere along the ways, they went from being one of the greatest companies, making the coolest things, to meh. Best way I can put it, meh. They're not horrible, they're just meh. Not really anything to get excited about. So they stood out for a little bit, but because the innovation they had was so superficial, it wasn't really real, it wasn't really deep. Once the excitement of the ooh, cool, new, shiny wore off, the next shiny thing distracted everyone, and they all rushed off to that new thing and left Motorola all alone. Now then comes the intermediate one, which again was an attempt at innovation and was more innovative than the Razr, but improperly done, which was the Moto Rocker. If you all are old enough, you'll remember the Rocker was the first attempt at a MP3 player / mobile phone combined into one unit. It was a unholy hybrid of Motorola and Apple technology crammed into one phone. Best way you can put it. It the concept was good. It was nice, and it was a kind of fun phone to have for the time. It was kind of fun. It lit up, had all these lights, had good speakers on it, sounded decent. You could transfer your phone files onto it, your iTunes files, listen to music. Yeah, I can't remember how many. It didn't have a huge storage space, but it had some. But yeah, it was kind of clunky. It was the candy bar phone design, which meh, wasn't that great. It didn't do so good. It it kind of went plop. Then came the iPhone, and I've gone back and watched, and I have to say it's one Steve Jobs at his best when he introduced the iPhone. His little speech that he gave, I can't remember what they call it, but when he went out there and does his presentations, he goes out there and says, we have groundbreaking MP3 player, an amazing new phone, and a maps, wonderful GPS system, or internet. So I can't remember the three things, and he delivered it so well, and he introduced the iPhone. And the iPhone was truly a groundbreaking, earth-shattering innovation that changed the industry forever. Now, before the iPhone, they had like Palm Pilots, Blackberries, and these older smartphones that they had. They were cool. They were for executives. They were clunky. They were hard to use, hard to see, not very user-friendly, the interface, but they were good for executives, and they were very expensive. I was trying to sell those. It was really hard to sell those. They didn't move. They were kind of clunky. And that was that. There was your Blackberries and your Palm Pilots, etc. They're okay, but they weren't all that great. And then, of course, we talked about the rocker, which was just a mess. And they had decent regular phones. The iPhone was the first time anyone managed to combine a phone into a machine that could go online, listen to MP3s, and have apps, and the touchscreen, and everything else that the best of an iPod, the best MP3 player, great handheld internet device that you could go onto the real internet and not just the mobile internet with weird choppy graphics, etc. And worked great as a regular phone too, where people could call and your music would shut off. You could answer the phone when you answer the phone, and they would go back to the music. It was truly amazing and truly completely different than anything that had come before. It had no buttons. You had a touch screen. You could go between a keyboard or a number pad quickly, instantly. It was a giant screen, so you could see a really big screen. Now, at the time, we thought it was huge. I went back and we found my wife's old iPhone, pulled it up next to my current Samsung S9, and it looks like a tiny itty bitty screen. But compared to the Razor or everything else that came before, it was amazing. This huge screen and two cameras, a front-facing and a back-facing camera. Wow. Motion sensing. No one ever had motion sensing in anything like that before. It was absolutely amazing technology that absolutely changed the way phones were even thought of going forward. Now, it took a little while before other people started coming up with similar smartphones, Samsung, etc. But that changed the industry, and that was a truly innovative product that Steve Jobs delivered. Now, you might say, oh, he sounds a bit like an Apple fanboy. Yeah, I'm not. that was very well done. I do appreciate good innovation. I appreciate what Steve Jobs did and how he delivered these talks, etc. He was the master of them. Now, I'm not a fan of Apple personally. If you caught, I actually have a Samsung. I don't buy Apple. Don't like Apple, but that's another story. Maybe I'll go into that at a later point. But in this case, this is a case of Apple truly causing innovation. Matter of fact, Apple does have a very good track record, or rather, Steve Jobs has had a good track record of truly innovating new and exciting things. And since he has passed away, Apple has not been able to do what he could do. And that is to truly innovate. I mean, let's see what's happened since he's begun. Apple Pay. My friend called me. I was talking to my friend in the States. They're like, oh, it's exciting. You can now pay for things with your phone. And we had that here in Norway for at least a year or two before that when you could pay with your phone. Then the controversial no headphone jack. You have earbuds. Okay. Granted, it's nice having earbuds that are wireless. Okay. But wireless earbuds had existed. Bluetooth was around. People had wireless headsets all the time. Not really a huge innovation. It was a change, but not what I would call a massive, groundbreaking innovation. It's just something that was probably going to happen eventually, and they started. Let's see. Fingerprint ID? Yep, okay. Sure, they came up with fingerprint unlocking first, but from what I understand, that had been in development and they just were the first ones to come up with it. And the idea had been around for a long time anyway, it was just how to develop it and make it work. Again, not a massive innovation. A useful one, but not massively groundbreaking. Granted, it's going to be, for me at least, really hard to imagine what the next new innovation that's groundbreaking is going to be when it comes to cell phones. It's anyone's game at this point. So, I've been talking about phones, but how do we apply this to your business? Well, there's two things here I think we need to do, and that is to differentiate between what we do to stand out and what we do to innovate. And they can overlap, of course, but the biggest thing is try to find out a way to stand out, to perfect something, to do something that your competition doesn't. And you don't have to create something brand new to do that. You can provide a higher level of customer service. You can add in extra personalization if you're doing a service. There's different things you can do to really stand out, to make people come to you because you provide extra value in some way, shape, or form. And part of doing that can be innovating and adding something that may be already done before, but doing it better, doing it in a different way, doing it a little bit shinier, doing it a little bit slicker or cooler, like the Motorola Razr, so that it really sets you apart and gets people's attention. And that's awesome and amazing. But don't rely on that to continually bring in your customers. You have to keep innovating and keep looking and hope maybe you'll find something that changes your industry forever. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll find some really massive, real powerful innovation. Maybe you won't. But don't worry about that. The biggest thing I think you need to worry about is keep trying to innovate, keep trying to grow, keep trying to find new ways to do what you do, to add value, to bring your customers, to set yourself apart. And if you come up with something that's great, don't rest on laurels. Don't think, wow, I've done it. I've got this great product that everyone's buying and I can just keep doing what I did and make this a little bit more shiny, a little bit more polished. because I think that's what Motorola did. They kind of got all excited. Their great innovation had got people excited, but when the next new thing came along, it couldn't hold up. It kind of reminds me of this Simpsons episode. Marge Simpson finds a really, really expensive designer dress in a thrift store for like $5. And she buys it and she wears it, and all of a sudden people think she's rich. She gets invited to a country club, and she gets invited to all these rich people things to do and hang out in clubs and organizations. And she wears this every time she goes, and people start talking about, hey, it's your dress, it's a nice dress, but you keep wearing the same dress, don't you have any other dresses? And so she takes it home, she alters it, she takes it home, and she alters it, she takes it home, she alters it. And eventually go, hey, it looks like you just have one dress and you just keep changing it over and over and over again. You're not really rich, are you? And she had to give up and was no longer part of those societies because she wasn't rich. And she had just had the one dress that she was altering. They figured it out. And I think that's kind of what Motorola did. They hit one big thing, but they just kept altering and altering and altering the one design without really changing anything in it and expecting people to be as excited about the new stuff as they were about their first design that was really cool. So I guess my point is, as you innovate, as you make things better, definitely do it to differentiate yourself, but don't let yourself think that you've changed the entire industry if you just made something a little bit shinier, a little bit different. Don't rest on that. Don't relax on that. Keep pushing to find better ways to do what you do, to streamline what you do, to bring in customers, to give extra value, and make that your focus. And I think that's the biggest thing. Make the focus giving value to your customers. Make your new products, everything else that you do that innovates, focus on the customers to make your customer a better customer service, better experience. And as you do that, if you keep focusing on it, who knows, maybe you will do the next big innovation that really changes the market. Anyway, go out there, come up with new things, improve things, definitely improve things. Don't think small innovations are a bad thing either. Just don't get carried away with an innovation that seems big but isn't really. Just don't let yourself be fooled like Motorola. Anyway, you have a great day. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Remember to get your free half-hour consultation by using our contact page and the links below. If you found value in this content, please give us a 5-star rating on whichever podcast platform you use. It is very helpful if you share this with your friends. If you'd like to directly support this podcast, I have a few donation links in the description, or you can check out the show sponsors. You have been listening to the O'Connor Bootstrap podcast, which is an Atheoz Business Solutions podcast. Our companion podcast, the Atheoz Business Podcast, which is hosted by Jason St. Clair. Our past episodes and related blogs, you can check out our website at www.atheoz.com, which is www.atheoz.com or atheoz.com. Remember, you can also check us out on the O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast Facebook group, where you can interact with me and other people who are bootstrappers and entrepreneurs. The link is in the description. Come check us out. I would love to interact with you. And until next time, I'm your friendly neighborhood entrepreneur, Isaiah O'Connor. See you later.